Hi there! So, in this modern era, you can see the various ways of how a country can actually be run and be governed. A country can be ruled by a king, or perhaps a queen,
Good evening, Respond.
Good evening.
oppressed by a dictatorship, as well as headed by a scandal-prone prime minister. But how about a country led by a president? No, not this guy. Yes, this is a way better example. This is Zarif Manafiz, president of the Imo Republic. I have never heard about the Imo Republic before. Well, let's show it on the map. The Imo Republic is located in North America, smacked in between the former countries of Canada and the United States, which dissolved after World War III. Its capital, Melancholia, is where the administration and the seat of power resides. The flag of the Imo Republic is blue, symbolizing the power of democracy in the state, while the 5 stars in the upper left symbolizes the 5 liberties that are upheld by the Constitution. Now let's look into the formation of the Imo Republic government. It starts with the election process, where the people vote for their choice of representatives. And importantly, who gets to be the president. Similar to the former US election system, the ambitious candidates go through a series of state primaries and caucuses, where they compete for the support of party members and supporters, when finished off with a national convention to determine a party's presidential nominee.
Ladies and gentlemen, I have been informed that Barack Obama is now our party's official nominee for President of the United States of America.
Once the candidates are determined, the process is followed by a general election. Eligible and registered voters cast in their ballots to vote for their choice of president, state senators, and constituent representatives. The ballots are then counted nationwide by the Election Commission, and the presidential candidate with the most votes wins the general election, thus will be elected as the president.
Hello and welcome back to the latest edition of Meet the Ministers of the Imo Republic. Today's lineup of ministers that will be featuring in this program features me as the newly elected president of the Imo Republic and my most trusted cabinet members. So, without further ado, let's introduce the key members of my cabinet. First of all, let's start with our esteemed Attorney General, Madam Atika.
Okay, good evening everyone. My name is Atika Bitsuko. I'm an Attorney General for Imo Republic.
Hello, everyone. I am Abid bin Nazri, and I am the Secretary of State of Imo Republic.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Amni Zafri. I am the Vice President of the Imo Republic.
And last but not least, this is the President himself speaking. I'm Zarif Manafiz, former Governor of Nottingham and now the current President of the Imo Republic. So in today's edition of Meet the Ministers, we're going to talk to you about the presidential system of governance. So let's begin. Okay, so the key characteristics of the presidential system of governance. First of all, Me, as the president, I am considered the head of state for my country. Usually, I am also the head of government, and that applies according to the constitution of the Human Republic. However, in countries with both a president and a prime minister, power is divided between the two according to each country's respective constitution. Next, executive and legislative members in countries that exercise this system of governance, such as our beloved country, are elected separately. This means that the power of the presidency and the legislative branch of government may be held by different parties. Since during the election, people may choose to vote for one party for president and another party for the legislative seats. However, this also means that the president is not responsible to the legislature. Instead, the president is responsible to the electorate themselves, since they are elected separately from the other members of the legislative branch. So I'll pass to my most trusted Madam Vice President to continue today's lesson.
Alright, so moving on to the next characteristic is the removal of the president from the office is difficult if outside of the election. So that means to impeach a president requires a specific constitutional measures that are usually is hard to pull off. And the last one is the president may be a body instead of a single person. So for example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, the presidency is a 3-member body of which each member actually represents each major ethnic group. Instead of one, the president is a 3-member body. So that is all for the characteristic.
Okay, so let's talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the presidential system, which will be handled by both my trusted Secretary of State and Attorney General. You may begin.
Okay, so moving on to the advantages of the presidential system. What advantages does the presidential system bring to a country that adopts it? So first of all, fixed tenures means smooth continuity of administrative policy for presidents. Second, power in the system of governance is clearly separated between different branches of government. And lastly, the president nominate his own expert candidates to his cabinet.
So that's the pros of this system of governance. But what about the cons? Why do some countries dislike this particular system? So let's move on to Madam Atika in order to explain about it.
Okay, I will explain about these advantages of the presidential system. First of all, deadlocks may occur, especially if control of the branches of government is divided. And the second one is, it is difficult to remove the president from office via impeachment. As example, if you want to impeach the president, you have to go through House of Senate and House of Representatives and so on. So I think it's quite tough actually to apply presidential system. And the last one is, the system is very expensive to run to account for separation of executive and legislative branches of government. Okay, let's get back to Mr. President.
Alright, so as you've all heard just now, my fellow ministers have explained succinctly about the characteristics of the presidential system and what's good about it, what's bad about it. So we hope that as your newly elected ministers, we will serve you well, especially for the future of our country and our cities. Okay, so let's get back to everyone. Bye bye.
Have you ever wondered how does a bill becomes a law in a presidential system? So now I am going to explain the lawmaking process in my government. When someone thinks there is a need for us to have a law, a member of legislature will introduce a bill into his or her legislative chamber, which means it will start the process of a very lengthy process, which is called as drafting a bill. The next stage starts when the bill is introduced. The presiding officer of that chamber will refer the proposed legislation to one or more committees depending on its subject. Moving on to the next stage, the bill will go to the committee. The committee members will review the bill and decide whether to hold public hearings, to combine it with related draft legislation, to propose amendments, to recommend that the chamber in which it was introduced consider it favorably, or to set it aside for possible later review. The fourth stage begins when the subcommittee review the bill. If the committee return the bill to the chamber of the body in which it was introduced, members will debate the measure and may consider further amendments. Committees refer bill to subcommittee for study and their own hearings. The subcommittee may make changes to the bill and must vote to refer bill back to the full committee. The next stage is when the committee mark up the bill. When the hearings and subcommittee review are completed, the committee will meet to mark up the bill. They make changes and amendments prior to recommending the bill to the floor. If a committee votes not to report legislation to the full chamber of legislature, the bill dies. But there are still few who will go on to the full body for debate. During the debate, the bill may be amended again. Next is when voting by the full chamber on the bill starts. The bill is then considered by the full chamber. If it passes, the measure is referred to the other chamber, where this process begins anew. And if a majority then votes in favor, the committee and the floor debate process is repeated in the other house of Congress. Next is when the referral of the bill to the other chamber. Once both houses have voted in favor of the bill and the two bodies have negotiated a compromise of any differences, the majority in the House and in the Senate agreed that the bill should become a law, it later will be signed and then it will be sent to the President. And once the bill arrives to the President, and if the President signs the bill, it will eventually become a law. But then, if the President does not approve, he or she can veto the bill. This is because the President may sign the act of legislature into law or veto it. And now we are here in the very last stage, which is overriding a veto. Legislature can then override the President's veto, which means it takes two-thirds majority vote in both houses and the Senate, thereby making the vetoed act as a law. This means that the bill will still turn into a law despite the President's objection in the very first place because of the overriding veto.
So, in this video, you have learned the formation of the Imo Republic government, how do they run their government exactly, with the presidential system, with the advantages and the disadvantages does it bring, and also how did they enact their laws and regulations through things such as ascensions of the bill through the Senate. So, I think that's all from us. If there are any questions, please leave some questions in the meeting during our presentation, and as always, like and subscribe. No, I'm kidding. I don't have a YouTube, so yeah. Bye-bye.
We have We have ended this segment. We're going to move on to the second segment.
That was really a productive segment, wasn't it? Keep yapping, man.
The people understand, Joe.
They sure do.
47 years you've done nothing. They understand.
All right.